STEAMunity, we have Raechel Walker. She is currently a Ph.D. candidate in the Personal Robots group within the Department of Media Arts and Sciences at MIT. Her research is primarily centered on AI education with a specific focus on the concept of liberatory computing for minoritized communities. Her work on data activism has gained recognition and has been featured on the MIT News, The Concord Bridge, The Day of AI, and the CSK8 podcast by Jared O'Leary. Notably, Rachel holds several prestigious fellowships, including the MIT Presidential Fellowship, Amazon Robotics Fellowship, and the Graduate Education for Minorities Fellowship. Her leadership played a pivotal role in her team's success, leading them to win the MIT Open Data Prize and the Respect Best Paper Award. Rachel completed her bachelor's degree in data science with concentrations in perspectives of social sciences, dance and theater at the University of California, San Diego. Thank you for joining STEAMunity today, Rachel. Would you start by providing us with some insights into what you're doing at your current position?
Of course. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. So, for the past 2 years, I've been working primarily on my data activism program, where I've been in charge of teaching these students and creating the curriculum to teach them about how they can use data science to mitigate systemic oppression. And so, the last data activism program that I taught was for 24 African American high school students in the Boston area, and they were able to be partnered with 3 different community organizations, and they helped them with collecting data on different issues that were really essential to their communities. They also analyzed that data using different programming languages like Python and Pandas. And they also were able to learn about geospatial analysis too, where they were able to create different interactive maps and websites that allowed people to view different community assets within their community. And so overall, the students were able to really feel empowered to know that since they had this experience with working with community organizations, they could really make a meaningful impact in their community. And so currently now I'm working on distributing this curriculum to different teachers and computer science outreach programs, or really anyone who's interested in doing their own data activism projects that incorporate participatory action research, which is ensuring that the people that are experiencing the problem the most are a part of the decision making process, and also every aspect of the project that's trying to support the
Mm.
community.
Wow, that's very impressive. So basically developed this curriculum that is now available to like teachers to like teach students and basically anyone to like sort of harness their like passion for social change and social movement and amalgamate that with data activism, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I actually have 3 different lesson plans from the data activism program available online. So a part of MIT is this project called Day of AI, where we develop curriculum for students from kindergarten all the way until 12th grade that are interested in learning about AI and data science. And so if people are interested, they can feel free to just Google Day of AI and they can find those 2 activities that center around data science and understanding different aspects of their community. And that activity is called Data Science and Me. And then there's another one that's called Data Science and Decision Making, where they can learn about how to analyze different demographics of students that are admitted into different colleges. And they can also learn about affirmative action as well, and how that affects diversity inside of different colleges based off of their state. And so those are 2 different ways that people can actually start using the curriculum today if they're interested.
Wow, that's amazing. This is like a very like I feel like revolutionary and sort of new idea. Could you please like expand on sort of how your educational or professional journey kind of led you to sort of this idea and sort of your current position right now? What exactly was your journey to sort of create these curriculums and know that you wanted to help students feel empowered and feel like they can use this technology to make a change in their society?
For
Do you-
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would say that my interest in data activism specifically
Mhm.
started when I was in and I guess the summer before college, and I went to UC San Diego, and they were talking about this new major called data science. And they were saying how the chief data scientist under President Barack Obama was using data science to try to mitigate the prison industrial complex and just try to get into a better understanding of like how are prisons negatively affecting minoritized individuals. And I just thought that was so amazing because I'd entered college as like a political science major, but I was
Mm.
also really interested in computer science as well because I did take two computer science classes in high school, but I wasn't too sure how I could combine those two
Mm.
um, together. And so during my spring quarter at UC San Diego, I took my first data science class and I really enjoyed it. And all throughout starting in sophomore year, I did different research projects that primarily started with AI research. But during my last year, I was actually able to do a data activism project where we were trying to understand how solar panels were supporting folks inside of California. And so we really just wanted to understand who were the type of people who were buying solar panels, and how we can ensure that everyone was able to uh, ben- you how everyone we're trying to ensure that everyone is able to get a solar panel. And so that was a really motivating project for me as well, during my undergraduate degree. And I think one of the main reasons why I decided to really ensure that my curriculum was able to increase diversity in data science was because I was always the only African American in all of my data science classes. And so I knew that with whatever I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to try to increase diversity because I was the only African American, it was often really hard for me to find a group of students that I could like work on projects or assignments with, or just feel, I guess, included within my classes or within data science in general. And so um, that really encouraged me to try to use data science to support minoritized students. And then when I applied for MIT, I was really put in an amazing lab, the personal robots group, where I was able to continue that research of trying to understand what are some of the main reasons why minoritized students aren't as involved inside of computer science, and how I could ensure that my curriculum was not only trying to ensure that they saw themselves as data scientists, but ensuring that data science in general could be a field where they felt included.
Mm.
And so that's what started that. And so I guess my first program was with the mayor's summer youth program in Cambridge, which you were a part of. And so, yeah, from there, I just was like, this would be really awesome if students could actually work with community organizations. And so that happened the spring of 2023, where I was able to get three community organizations, specifically Habitat for Humanity, Food Link, and Charles River Watershed Association, who all focus on different aspects of environmental injustice and within the Boston community. And it was overall just really beneficial for the students because they were able to see that they could actually have an impact.
Mm.
One of the organizations that worked with the students is called the Charles River Watershed Association, and they focus on environmental justice and climate justice within Boston. So just trying to ensure that different community assets are able to support everyone within the community. And so the students really wanted to focus on um, inland flooding inside of their community because even though they weren't close to the water, they felt as if within their community, they actually were having a lot of problems with flooding within their house or within their school. And so the students were able to collect data that showed that there actually was a lot of flooding inside of their neighborhoods in areas such as Dorchester, where it's predominantly minoritized communities. And they were able to create these interactive maps that highlighted this issue. And they were also able to analyze data and create different data visualizations like bar graphs and line graphs that actually showed which community assets would be affected in the future if
Mm.
inland flooding continues within like the 2030s and 2050s. And so that was just really impactful because these community organizers are now saying that they're going to use this data inside of different meetings with different politicians and in the mayor's office so that they can see that these are actual issues. But also, um, different since the students were able to create these maps that were interactive, people within the community can also use them as well. And so currently I'm in the process of meeting with these community organizations again and just trying to form long-term relationships with them so that I can see how big of the impact so that I can see the impact that the students are making in the long term.
Wow, that is incredible that these students got to like collect data and actually like present it to politicians who are now going to use it to make changes in their communities. I I believe you've touched on this like throughout your conversation about like diversity and how that impacts innovation. Do you believe that diversity and inclusion impact like progress in fields and STEAM innovation? And have you sort of seen that in your career and sort of the curriculums that you've been planning?
Yeah, that's a really great point that you brought up. Because one of my first introductions to data activism was watching this poem, spoken word poem by Joy Balmwini, or Dr. Joy Balmwini, who graduated from the Media Lab with her PhD, and she was talking about how AI can't recognize or has a hard time recognizing darker skinned individuals. And after watching that video, I began doing a lot more research into like why is this such an issue. I actually took a class at Harvard. It's called Critical Thinking in Data Science. Um, and so I was really just interested in finding out why is this a problem, and diversity of the people who are making these AI algorithms was actually a huge part of that. And so that was something that really stuck with me because I feel like within my data science major, we never were required to take a class that talked about AI bias or just thinking about even the ethics of creating different data science algorithms. And so that really made me think about how I wanted to restructure my class to ensure that students were able to actually think about whether the data they were putting inside of an algorithm was actually going to output something that was fair. But also, I wanted to ask students to think about whether the AI algorithm should even be used inside of certain cases.
Mm,
I'm not sure if you remember, but inside of one of our lessons during the data activism program, we talked to students about this algorithm called Compass,
mhm,
which was predominantly used inside of different, I guess, judicial meetings where judges had to decide how they had to decide the likelihood that someone would commit another crime. And so I pose this question to students of like, do they think that an algorithm should even be a part of that decision making process? And so it's just important that students think about um, one, who is making the algorithm and whether they are asking them questions of like, should this algorithm be actually used, and also thinking about what's the diversity of the data set. If you're going to be, I guess, trying to teach an algorithm to, I guess, recognize what a face looks like, are
mhm.
you telling the algorithm that different faces have different skin tones, or are you just telling the algorithm that um, different faces only have a pale or a light or fair skinned skin tone? And so I always try to get my students to really question or just to make them think about whether algorithms should be used in the first place, and also are they being used in a justice oriented way.
Mm,
And so I always like to also ask my students, what do they think justice is, and is this algorithm actually supporting people or harming people? um, and so it's really I think a lot that goes into, I guess, creating, I guess, a engineer or anyone who wants to get involved in STEM. I think there's a lot of classes that people should be taking before they even get to like creating algorithms, just because they really do have a big impact on society. Like one of the main reasons why I wanted to get involved in data science in general is because I was like, wow, you can really have a big impact on society, and so many people can use the different tools you're using. But um, you should really think about, is it actually impacting the people that you want to be supporting and who may need the most support?
Mhm. Wow. So you
Yeah.
mentioned that in your undergrad that you had first started out thinking more of social sciences and then went into computing and sort of data activism and data science. Do you think you came in with the mindset while like going through those courses of sort of that social science background and the impact that data science and sort of technology has on our broader community?
For sure. Yeah, I'd say that my first introduction into different, I guess, social justice topics was through this program called Summer Bridge at UC San Diego, which was an amazing program where I was able to develop a community of other students that were either, I guess, minoritized students or low income students. And we were able to take this class where we talked about different systemic injustices within the education system. And that was really my first time thinking about why was I the only like African American inside of a lot of my STEM classes. And they actually broke down some of the history into why that was the case. And so that was something that I did go into my college experience thinking about. And so that was really great. But I'd say my first like specific like African American studies class where I was introduced into different topics like intersectionality. Now, based off of like different aspects of your identity, you can experience multiple oppressions. I feel like that didn't come until maybe my sophomore year. But I'd say also just within my family as well, we would always talk about different things like intersectionality and different social justice topics. And so I think that also helped me, I guess, make it a point that within my education that I take classes that will ensure that I understand how you can incorporate justice into data science. And so I believe it was my sophomore year where I was able to take a ethics course that focused on how you can ensure that you're actually positively impacting the community if you're working in STEM. And
Mm,
that was a really pivotal class too, as well.
yeah. There's, I think a lot of the times we think about STEM careers and sort of technology and how that plays out in our society, but that's very influenced by how our society is structured. And so that, of course, includes racism and sexism. And so those courses on like ethics and sort of looking at, you know, how we're building our technologies in a just way is really important. Were those classes like offered to you at the place that you were going? And if not, would you like to have seen that, or would you like to see more curriculums like that incorporated like side by side with the science classes that you're taking? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Because I think before, or I guess before coming to MIT, I really thought that I knew a lot about like data science and ethics. But after doing, I guess, more research, and then since that's what my PhD is focused on, I realized that I really wish that these ethics and justice conversations were in my data science classes, that we're really focused on more of the theoretical side of like how do you build an artificial intelligence model, which I really enjoyed and loved. um, but I really think it would have been great if within the same class we were able to apply our AI models to the real world and try to understand how we can ensure that algorithms are fair, and also think about the context of larger society. And so I think that that would have been really great. But I also really liked how within my college they really encouraged us to have two minors. So like within my sub college within UC San Diego called Warren College, you had to do two minors. And so one of those minors were perspectives of social sciences. And so in that way, I feel like I was encouraged by my college to, I guess, uh, understand larger size society, not just within like the data science realm. And
Mhm.
so I really enjoyed taking those classes where I was able to learn about Asian American history and about social justice movements around the world. And so I feel like those were really great. It just would have been great if they were all in the same class and it wasn't just something extra that I had to take. I think also if everyone within my data science major was also able to, I guess, have a similar background of what I was being able to get within, I guess, my social science classes. I think that really would have benefited our final projects and group projects as well, just because we all would kind of have this better understanding of how uh, different aspects of people's lives can positively or negatively affect them.
Mm. Could you share some of your challenges being a woman of color in STEM and sort of how you overcame that?
For sure. Yeah. I'd say that I would have to talk more about like my time within UC San Diego. So at UC San Diego, unfortunately, there's only 2% African Americans. And so I feel like that racial disparity in and of itself definitely contributes to a climate that isn't very conducive to ensuring that African Americans feel safe or included on campus. And I can definitely say that that type of environment did spread into like my data science classes as well.
Mm.
I did mention how I was a part of Summer Bridge, which
Right.
was this program of more diverse students, I would say. And so a small group of us started in data science or in different computer science class. It was like an intro to computer science class. But then after that semester, I looked to my left and right and they weren't there anymore. And I feel like there were some classes where unfortunately there just wasn't any diversity, and as a result it was a lot harder for me to just get through those classes like within the data science major at UC San Diego. It's very challenging. I would definitely say that um, it's definitely for someone who's willing to like work very hard, and it's very hard to get through those classes without having a group of people, I guess, that are willing to support you in a way. And so I in that way it was a lot more challenging for me. But like the way that I was able to get through that was by going to all the different office hours that the TAs would offer, and also ensuring that I asked the professor for different office hours. For folks that don't know what office hours are, it's just where you can go have a meeting with one of the teaching assistants or one of the professors in the class, and they can just walk you through different assignments that you may be struggling on. And so I did have to really find it within myself, but also I relied a lot on my relationship with God to really just see whether all of this hard work that I was doing was worth it. And I think that something that really made me want to continue to do data science, even though I felt as if it was really challenging, was this belief that I wanted to diversify data science. And so that was really beneficial. But I was also able to have a great community of other um, students of color outside of UCSD through this program called Code 2040. And so I was introduced to this program like before even coming to UC San Diego. Someone told me about it, but I didn't apply until sophomore year. But it was this program for students of color that were interested in getting engaged in the tech field. And so, along with doing an internship, you also were able to engage in different conversations about how to incorporate justice and diversity, equity, inclusion into the tech space. And so that was just a really pivotal moment as well, where I was able to just be surrounded by people who were going through similar things as me, where they may be the only person of color inside of their tech company where they're doing an internship. But yeah, I found that having those spaces of people where we could be vulnerable and ask people how we should approach different situations within the workplace if we feel uncomfortable was just really pivotal, as well as like being able to find that community, which was really great. At UC San Diego, we also had a Black Student Union as well. And so that was just a really great way for me to meet people, even though we were taking different classes. It was just great to like have folks that were also experiencing similar things and to just feel like I wasn't alone, which was really great.
Yeah.
And I can say very similar things about MIT as well. Unfortunately, as of right now, there aren't a lot of like African Americans within the graduate community, but I have been able to meet people, whether that be through the Graduate Christian Fellowship, or being a graduate diversity ambassador, where I'm able to meet other people with similar experiences, and we can help each other navigate the different trials that we may be experiencing. But I find that it's always worth it, when you're able to see like how what you're doing is actually able to have an impact on folks. So I feel like actually being able to teach students like you about data science is also really rewarding too, and has been a huge factor into me continuing to want to be involved in STEM as well.
How do you believe that visibility of like people of color and women of color sort of impacts the aspirations of young girls and young people looking at these STEM careers and not really knowing where they should go or how they should explore what they're interested in?
What was the first part of your question?
All
Sorry.
right, yeah. Basically, how do you believe like visibility of people of color and women of color impacts the aspirations of young girls trying to pursue these STEM careers?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really great question. Because I believe that one of the main reasons why there were so few of the people from Summer Bridge that went into these STEM majors or computing in general was just because there weren't a lot of people that looked like us. I was really lucky that I had a advisor in high school that suggested that I join the computer science class, but without having that person to be like, "Oh, you should join this class," I definitely would not have signed up because one, I never heard of it. There's no one inside of my family who's in the computing or data science and AI area. So one, I would have never heard of it, and two, I just wouldn't know if I would be included in that space. I feel like if there's anyone who doesn't want to be involved in STEM because of like the negative things they heard about it, I feel like that is definitely really valid because I think everyone wants to go be everyone wants to be involved in a space where they feel included and loved and safe. And so I think for me, being able to look up to folks like Dr. Joy Bonwini was really amazing. And also to see that she was able to bring her full self into computing because in your introduction, I'm really interested in dance and theater and also social justice. And she incorporates art and word poetry into her data activism in regards to AI bias. And I just thought that was so amazing that I didn't have to, I guess, be the same as everyone else or what someone may think is a stereotype of someone who's into STEM. And so I think that that's always really inspiring just to have someone who may not have a traditional background as well. Um, I think also just being able to have a community is really important. And so I think that if women or anyone who's minoritized feel as if they aren't included inside their workspace or inside their classes, just being able to have people who are willing to take the extra time to show them how to apply for an internship or apply for different research opportunities, I think is always really beneficial. And I definitely wouldn't be where I am without the amazing mentors and just random people, honestly, that were just like, here's a program I think you'd be interested in. Why don't you apply? I think that was really important. But also, when I was applying to PhD programs, I wasn't too sure if I was even good enough because when I was applying for different PhD programs, there weren't a lot of data science PhD programs out there. There were a lot of computer science PhD programs where you could, I guess, have a specialization in data science and AI. But since I didn't have a computer science degree, I wasn't even sure if I was going to be accepted because I would think that at the time I thought that if they saw data science, they'd be like, that's not computer science. Why is she applying? But I was really, really grateful for all of the people that took the time to be like, no, you should really apply for this program. And so the people who, so those, some of those people were like admissions officers that were women at different colleges, and also current PhD students at different colleges that I was interested in, to name a few people, but also my mentor at Code 2040, who also encouraged me to apply. So I think, and those were all like women of color. So I think without having those people there, I definitely wouldn't have applied and probably wouldn't have felt like as confident
Mm.
in my application. And so oftentimes I think just having someone that looks like you that is able to say like you should apply and just let other people decide whether you're good enough or not, and not, I guess it was really essential for me to not, I guess, um, take myself out of the running for something that God may have for me. And so I think being able to have people in my life that were really just were just gave me a lot of affirmations to know that like I had a space within like um computing PhD programs were really beneficial. Like I didn't even know about the media arts and science program, but one of my mentors, her name's Dr. Christina Alvarado at UC San Diego, was like, oh, you should apply. And I never even heard of the program. So, I mean, just having a community of people that are willing to advocate for you, I think can really go a long way and will really end up shaping your career.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So it seems like you had a lot of support, or at least some support and mentorship that sort of led you to the way you are and where you are. And that's amazing because now you're using your personal experiences and all that you've learned to inspire future generations. Um, I guess if you could reflect back again on like your undergrad self or your high school self, what is some advice that you'd give them? And yeah, what would that be and why?
For sure, yeah, that's really great. I think like a phrase that I repeat to myself a lot is like try your best and let God do the rest. Because during my first year, I really struggled in my computing classes, and I
Mm.
wasn't getting the grades that I would expect for someone that would be studying for 40 hours a week. And that would literally be like one of the main things that I did during the week. And so it's just really frustrating. And even getting applying for graduate schools, I wasn't even sure if I really wasn't even considering applying for a place like MIT because I was like, oh, my GPA isn't good enough. Oh, my scores aren't good enough. I really wasn't even considering it. And I was just really stressed out like during my junior, or I guess my third year in college, because I was like, oh, I'm trying so hard, but like I don't feel like my GPA is a reflection of that. And so I mean, I think just telling myself that like everything's going to work itself out, I think is the most important thing that I could have actually like believed. I was telling myself that, but it was really hard for me to believe it, and like have my actions reflect that belief. And so I feel like I would definitely tell myself that like your hard work is going to pay off in some way or form. I think would also been really beneficial to know, because I definitely didn't think that I'd be able to get into MIT or to, I guess, even improve in my grades either. I think after my first year, I was discouraged because I was like, oh, this is so hard. Maybe I should just do political science, because I really felt unprepared for like college computing. So I was like, should I even be doing this? Maybe I should just do political science and like become a lawyer or something. But during my second year, like I actually improved. Like I learned the study skills that I needed. I learned the different patterns I would need to have every day and like how much I should be studying every day. And so as when I started my sophomore year, like I saw my grades really improve too. So I think I also would have wish I would have told myself like during those times where like I didn't do well on like a midterm or a final, that like you're going to get better as well. Like you're actually going to learn like how to study and how to prepare for these midterms and finals. So yeah, I also wish I gave myself more grace and just told myself that like it's all going to work out in the end. Um, yeah, and also it would I think I would have really benefited from understanding the power of being able to tell my story too, because like now within my data activism classes, I tell my students like it's okay if it may take you like a year, or it won't take you these 10 weeks that we have in this class to like understand what's going on when you're coding. That's perfectly fine. And I think that that gives some students the ability to know that it's okay to ask questions too. And
Mm.
so I think if I wouldn't have struggled as much within my computing classes, um, I think that students wouldn't be able to, like, I guess, relate to that story or feel as comfortable like asking me questions because they realize like, oh, it doesn't all come naturally or easy to Rachel either. So I'm just gonna be more upfront about asking for questions and asking for help.
Thank you so much for providing that reflection. And I hope our viewers can watch this and sort of feel inspired by your journey as well. It's been such an honor and privilege to have this opportunity to talk with you. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Of course. Thank you so much, Ashi, for inviting me to talk. And it's just been really amazing to see your growth in doing data activism with Innovators for a Purpose. So you should be really proud of yourself. I know I'm really proud of you. And I hope that you continue with this initiative that you're doing and that you just continue to be an activist in every shape or form. I always say how you are definitely one of those students that were definitely like a standout student in your knowledge of data activism before even coming into the class. So, yeah, you should just be really proud of yourself for that.
Thank you so much.